So you might be able to see in the background, beautiful bay beyond Kilbrittain. We are in the home of Jamie Wall. Jamie, how are you keeping?
Well, Eoin, how are you? Welcome to our humble abode.
I said that when I was down in Cork, I just had to get out of the city. I was like, this is not the sole representation of Cork GAA, and here I am, Kilbrittain. What is it about Kilbrittain that makes it a special place GAA wise?
You're dead right. It's like going to when all the American tourists come to Ireland and they don't leave Dublin. They don't really get a sense of it at all. Asher, just down here, like I suppose you met my brother earlier on, and like as he said, you have to come here. There's no actual reason to pass through the village. There's a better road from every village or town in the vicinity, we'll say, to each other. So we're kind of a little inlet on our own, kind of out of the way, and we just have a nice setup there. The village is in off the sea, but then like we've got the beaches and stuff there. We've two beaches that are, again, they're kind of a small bit quieter. And a bit more kind of our own, because I suppose you've Garrett's down 10 minutes over the way, which is Coursey Rovers territory, and you have kind of then Dunworley and Chidani, which is more Barry Row, Clonakilty kind of territory. So you're kind of they're the big, we'll say, beaches that people go to. So kind of, again, people tend to just go past our area, and we're just off the Wild Atlantic Way, which, as we were talking about earlier, is a nice gimmick, nice thing to say anyway.
Yeah.
So hopefully Killarney will get themselves on it now in the next while.
Yeah, that's probably a story for another day. We're trying to reach a little bit. Yeah, Killarney. It's interesting because the last kind of like year and a half, I guess we've become kind of more reconnected with our home place and stuff like that. Obviously, we get into your connection with Limerick later on in this chat, but do you feel a closer affinity to County Cork as a result of being down here more during COVID?
Hard to say really. Like, definitely to the immediate locality. Like, I think that's something that's a real, like, I struggle to say that there were massive positives out of COVID, because obviously, like, everyone has their own stories with, you know, things that have had, like, people have been sick and people have passed away. So, like, you know, but obviously, you know, in every situation there's obviously things that you get out of it, and one thing that I got out of it is a kind of a reconnection to home. Like, I'm 29 now since last month, and I came home for I've been home for kind of the bulk of COVID. I was in Limerick for about a 6-month block right last year during it, but I've been at home since January because my placement has been in Cork City. I've been kind of back in Cork for the first time, for an extended period, for the first time in a long time. And I have really enjoyed it. Like, you know, I'm studying law, and I'm hoping to kind of get my traineeship now in Cork, in a firm in Cork, and I'm kind of like that, kind of seeing, yeah, like, I've been out and about, and I'm hoping to get back here, kind of like, I think that's something all Cork people want anyway. So yeah, definitely kind of that reconnection side of it, like, and even just getting home now, like, I you know, I have a definite more of a feeling of connection to the GA at home here in Cork, like, with, you know, with the club, like, we'll say, you know, I'd be rushing you out of the house in a while to go to an under 13 game up in the village, and training the lads then after at 8 o'clock, and the intermediate lads, and, you know, I'm involved with our club under 15s and stuff. So it's kind of an almost a recentering, like, we'll say, that I'd say I'm not the only person. I'd say a lot of people have had it, you know, with COVID, and reconnecting with their home place and stuff. And I think that's definitely something I've experienced anyway, and it's something that it's certainly been a positive experience in, you know, in a kind of an otherwise negative 18 months, like, in the general case of the general world, like.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So how are the intermediate team going here then?
We're going all right, sure. Like, we were supposed to be playing our first round, I suppose, the weekend after next, but, you know, look, obviously in Cork everything has been pushed back now, with Cork getting to the final, and nobody's complaining, like, everyone's kind of quite, that's kind of, you take that on the chin when there's a bit of success. Everyone's quite happy to move back a week or two. So we're back now till the 12th of September. All the county hurling championships in Cork kick off that weekend, the football the week before. There's a couple of championships from last year still have to get played as well. So we're all waiting on those kind of results in terms of teams going up or down grades. But the boys are going well. Like, we were in a league final this year. The county board, they ran a really good kind of league cups thing where they basically kind of said, like, that, you know, we wouldn't have time for a full 8-9 game league campaign for every club, which was correct. Like, so they set up these league cups where it was like 3 games, top 2 went to semi-finals, and then went to a final, and we lost the final by a point to Blackrock. second team, which like they'd be a grade ahead of us. They're just down from 2 grades ahead of us, so it was great. Like we got loads out of it. We played 5 games, you know, lost the last game by a point. You were kind of at that stage. You were kind of like, you've gotten what you want out of it anyway. And I think it was a format that maybe the board they might look at keeping when, you know, next year hopefully we have a normal year for everybody, and there's that split season that hopefully is coming in, and there's a kind of an opportunity there to give club players regular meaningful games. And like I think there's a great opportunity there for boards throughout the country to say, you know, let's have 3 competitions. Let's have the running league that kind of runs 8, 9, 10 games, kind of like, you know, your Premier League, etc. Then throw these kind of, you know, small secondary competitions that provide a kind of an opportunity for a team to, like, you know, play up and down grades, like, because ours was a mixed grade thing. And what it does is it just gives teams, you know, club players, regular program of games and a variety of games and chances to win different things and have different staging posts. And we've used it, you know, in that sense, and we've found it's been great. Like, we've really enjoyed it. Like, so yeah, it's going quite well. We're like, when I say it's going quite well, like, you know, we've had wins, we've had losses, we've had all 3. We've had wins, losses, and draws. It's going quite well in that, like, we've huge numbers. Lads are really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it. Other selectors are really enjoying it. Like, I mean, that's what it's about, especially before the cut and thrust of championship days. But even then, it's still about just, you know, like, we're like, I think that's another thing that's come out of the last 2 years. Like, why do we do it? Like, why do we play sport? It's something that we like doing, you know. Like, this evening I'm going up because I want to go up tonight. Like, you know, I'm not going up to the village to watch an underage game because I feel like I have to, or you know, I'm not going up to train the lads because I feel like I have to. I'm going up because I really enjoy it, like, and I have really enjoyed it. And I think, again, like, I think a lot of people are starting to realise that as well, and I think that's a hugely positive thing.
That's really interesting, because I was just about to ask that about, like, what is it about coaching in particular that attracts you to it, and what are you, what is the boxes that are being ticked on your side of things with all the teams you've coached at this point? And it is just enjoyment. It's
fun. Like, it's fun. It's what you want to do. And, like, obviously, like, when you get stuck into it, then, like, you know, you want to do it well. And, you know, just don't get me wrong, like, we're not going to go up and hold hands and, you know, play duck, duck, goose up in the pitch or anything like that. We're going to take, like, it's taken seriously. Like, but there's a joy in that even. Like, you know, like, that's, like I think people like to train hard and they like to kind of see how good can I get, but also within a fun environment, like, and with games and, you know, making your sessions fun. Like, and I think that's something that, you know, I would speak a good bit to 1 or 2 of the guys involved with the Cork Miners at the moment, and I'm covering their game with TG Carr on Saturday. And you know, one of their coaches, a guy called Joe Regan from St. Finbar's, who, like, you know, something he always says, and, you know, we've spoken about, is like they have to enjoy it. Like, it has to be fun as well. Like, you know, it can be serious, and, you know, you've probably seen their results and their performances. They're a serious team. It can be serious and it should be serious, but it should be fun as well, and, like, you know, making it enjoyable for people, because, you know, ultimately that's and it's not like that's also how you get the best results, I would say. You know, it's trying to deliver a kind of a fun learning environment, like, you know, so you're engaging them, you're making it fun, and that's a challenge. And I suppose the element for me, like, obviously, like, I have gone away from the teaching as a profession, but I think it's the same thing that, you know, I think it's the same kind of, how would I say, like, the same kind of draw that drew me to teaching.
Right.
It's the same kind of, you know, it's almost kind of vocational kind of thing, like that. You know, you feel like you want to deliver this thing that brought you so much to someone else, and you want to do it right, and you want to do it the right way, and you want to help them, you know, reach their potential, but also enjoy reaching their potential. Like, you know, like, I'm not, I'm reading Gold in the Water by P.H. Mullen. I don't know if you've read it, but the swimming coach in, just needless to say, like, that's not quite the angle I'm going at with the lads. They're not down the beach there at 6 a.m, and I'm not flogging the shit out of them.
And what are you learning from that?
From the book? From the book? You're kind of just getting an insight into kind of, we'll say, the various levels in terms of, like, various levels of insanity of some coaches, to be quite honest. Like, and there are things there, like, you'd be an idiot if you didn't learn certain things from these practices. And there's, you know, these are obviously the elite, like we're talking about. Like, I'm talking about, you know, I'm still talking about a club team in West Cork versus you know, potential Olympic swimmers. Like, so naturally there's a huge difference. Like, but So you're picking up, you're kind of saying, right, what elements of that are practical to apply, but I know also, like, you're getting an idea, you're getting a glimpse into kind of, sometimes a glimpse into things being a little bit too far. You're kind of saying, yeah, okay, like that's not something I'd like to apply to the way I do things like online. But then obviously there are huge things that you'd be an idiot if you weren't taking them from it either. Like.
Yeah, that's really interesting. On the West Cork idea, like, I mean, I suppose it's been quite the year for West Cork, whether it's Netflix or Now TV or the Wild Atlantic Way, or what is the contribution of West Cork when it comes to hurling in this county? Because obviously the traditional idea is that the football is West Cork. Obviously that's not true. It's just because it's more dominant, obviously, when it comes to footballers within West Cork. So when it comes to hurling, how much do we underrate this part of the county and their contribution towards Cork?
Well, you could get me into hot water here, because I might start talking about the Cahalans, who are strictly speaking from St. Finbarrs, but might also be considered from West Cork. Okay. So I played with Damien in it, so it's alright. He won't. Like, I'll have Niall down the phone now. But so there's, well, let's just say that at the very least they have West Cork breeding in them anyway. You've Luke Mead. I went to school with Luke Mead inside in Bandon. That's in terms of the immediate contribution. Like, just across the bay there, I don't know if you remember Mark Foley that scored 2-7 before in the Munster final for Cork. He would have actually played minor with us, in the sense that we were joined with them as a kind of a minor amalgamation team. They'd be Argideen Rangers. We're actually playing them in the first round this year. Right. Yeah, but so Mark scored 2-7 in the Munster final for Cork. But like, obviously, look, like West Cork is predominantly a football area. It's a football area in the same way that West Clare is predominantly a football area, but Conor Cleary's from Milltown, and he's holding down full back. South Tip is a football area in Tipperary, and you've Seamus Kennedy, and you, like, I would say the best hurler that ever played for Tipperary, Owen Kelly, is from South Tip. So I suppose, like, it's about, like, in a county the size of Cork, obviously, people kind of get a small bit ghettoised, and south of the viaduct or west of the viaduct is kind of a thing that is said about that hurling kind of, not that it stops, but that there isn't as much of it, like, and there probably isn't as much of it, but there are still pockets of hurling in West Cork, and like, ultimately, like, there's a huge draw for hurling, and down here, like, we played under 15 there a couple of weeks ago against an amalgamation team from Bantry and Caelkill, and they love their hurling. Like, they're two clubs, St. Cullum's and Bantry. They're Kilmuckamogus, they're underage, but like, and they love their hurling. Like, they're there to hurl, and they come up as far as us. Like, it's about an hour for us, and they're still in West Cork to us. But like, so and that's kind of the reality, the geography of Cork as well, is that things are going to get split. But like, people love their hurling in Cork wherever they are, and obviously you have a stronger hurling tradition in East Cork, and in parts of the city, we'll say, than in parts of West Cork. But equally, there is a huge draw for hurling in West Cork, and it's something that I think we've gotten better at, in terms of, and something that has been credited probably in the last while, if you've been reading local media and stuff, like, where there's been talk about the Rebel Oak squads, and the work that they've done in terms of trying to make sure we get all the players from all the catchment areas, instead of before, where we might have had just 24 on an underage under 14 squad. And like, then obviously naturally, there's an element of the lads who are in the city playing against lads from the city are already at a higher level, and you never catch up to them. Whereas now there's a bigger focus, and I would go as far as to say, like, it has culminated in almost close to immediate success at minor and 20 in the last while, but there is a better focus on getting as many of them through to as high a standard as possible, and keeping them at as high a standard as possible. I think Kevin O'Callaghan, one of the GDA's games promotion officer, was talking about that kind of new mantra, I would say, with getting the bodies through. And I think that's something that I think in the next while we will see more hurlers from the less traditional clubs. And that's not to say we don't need the traditional clubs. We absolutely do. Like, we need the big clubs. You're like Kerry, you're going to need guys from Crokes. You're always going to need them. But the best player to ever play for Kerry is probably going to be a lad from Spa in 20 years' time when we go back and look at it, So, Fossa. Sorry, Fossa.
Darragh Moynihan has also.
Darragh Moynihan's pretty good too. I mixed up my slightly smaller clubs in Kerry, but like, like, that's, you need you need these bigger clubs like Cork will always need the Glen and the Bars, and getting the city club strong again has been a big boost to Cork. But equally, Seamus Harnedy has come from Gertrude, like St. Hita's, like, and so like I know they're in East Cork, but they were Junior B 10 years ago, like so like I think we're getting better at getting more from the places that would say traditionally may not have gotten the same chances, and like long may that continue, because like a county the size of Cork has, like, there's a massive natural advantage there, there is. And if there's been lots of kind of crying about Dublin's natural advantages lately, etc. But it's only in the last 10-15 years that they've actually harnessed that natural advantage. And I suppose for us, like, we haven't yet fully harnessed that, and if we can get to the point where we start harnessing, the sheer population advantage that Cork has in terms of players over everything, then I'm not saying that you'd be dominant, but Cork shouldn't go through a spell like they have for the last 15-16 years. They just shouldn't, and I think that's been reflected in the attitude to changing practices at different things. And so like I've gone on a bit of a tangent there.
No, it's interesting because like my blunt instrument approach to the analysis of the All Ireland hurling final this week has been to compare what Cork are doing at the moment to what Limerick have already done. How blunt is that, and how off the mark is that?
I don't think it's that off the mark at all. And I think, like, ultimately, like, what you're talking about is organisation and getting the most out of what you have. Like Limerick have already gone through that process, we'll say, and are getting the most out of their resources and their players, like, and they're getting the best of coaches to work at underage with their teams, and they're trying to get as many through as they can and get the fundamentals so right, and they're not as perturbed about what happens at 14s, 15s, 16s. They're more about, like, can we get competitive minor teams through? Can we get competitive 20s teams? Like, one thing that I think, like, it's a great, like, I don't know if this was, I think it was by design, but, like, I suppose the Alan Connolly, Shane Barrett kind of question debate that kind of started in Cork after the boys came on around the 69th, 70th minute mark against Limerick, and people were saying, oh God, they're gone for the 20s now, why didn't they spare them for the 20s? And I was kind of actually delighted with the decision to be like, no, they're senior players, that's it, no, they're senior players, we're not holding them for this 20s, because they're senior players, we think they're up to it. You had now guys playing, we'll say 2 boys are corner forwards, like, you have now got guys like Robbie Cotter from Blackrock, Paddy Power had to step up and be a main man, was man in a match last night. You have these guys now who have, like, the 2 lads have got the experience of playing senior, and they're going to play probably in an All-Ireland final. So you've got 2 more guys that have been developed at under 20, so now all of a sudden your net is a bit wider again, Yeah. And, like, just that kind of attitude with, like, I remember Wayne Sherlock, I was covering for TG Carr, Wayne Sherlock said, before they played Dublin in the All-Ireland final, like, all this talk about how Cork hadn't won an All-Ireland at any grade in hurling for however many years. And that question was put to him, and Wayne Sherlock said, our primary job is to get as many players through to senior level for Cork as possible. And he said this on the biggest day of their year, and I just thought, yeah, there's a guy that gets it like that. He gets big picture, and, like, I think we're kind of finally kind of heading towards that big picture thinking that, and it might actually lead somewhere, because, like, that ultimately, like, is, like, there was so much doom and gloom around Cork, and I know, like, everyone's delighted now because they have won the 20s, and it's easy to be wise after the fact and they've won the 20s. There was so much doom and gloom when Cork lost that 21s and 20s final. But I was kind of like, they've got to the final. They've got to 2 finals. They've played 5 games. Those players are now going to develop, like, they've got the full year. It was way worse back when, like, we'll say, when I was under 21, we went out in our first round and we got the shit hammered out of us by tip. We got bet asunder. That's a disaster of a year.
Yeah.
The boys losing the final by a point or 2 here or there, that's not a disaster, because they've gotten a year's development at inter-county level, and I suppose that thing with Alan Connolly and Barrett, where it's like, they're going to get the year's development here at senior, they're good enough to come on senior, we're using them senior, that's it, they're senior. You go find and develop 2-3 more players, and that's kind of the thinking that especially a county the size of Cork should be thinking. They should be saying, we have enough bodies, let's go get more. And let's get more, because, like, look at how strong Dublin have been the last couple of years. Like they're introducing fellas. They were winning O'Byrne Cups there a couple of years ago, and you were kind of saying, I don't know who any of these people are, and they're gone out beating proper Leinster teams in the finals and stuff. You know, the higher the standard you can raise, you know, from the bottom up, like the better chance you have at senior level. So that's kind of that similar kind of big picture thinking, basically. Like, and that's been kind of, I think that's been evident in the last while. You know,
the two lads from the under-20s going to the seniors is a really interesting case study, because in my mind I could totally forgive any manager who was like, no, they're staying because you want to win the 20s, but actually having the big picture, the wherewithal to be able to say, no, there is a bigger question here than just those two lads being there, that speaks volumes, really. And then to win it without them, then
big time. But like you had 6 forwards there the other night. Like you had Dara Flynn, Daniel Hogan, Brian Hayes, Jack Callahan, Robbie Cotter and Paddy Power, and you've Ben Cunningham coming off the bench, and you know Luke Harden coming off the bench. So you've 8 guys there, right? Like straight away, 2 of them are going to miss out if you hold these 2 guys back that are ready for senior. And like these two guys who are ready for senior have their All-Ireland final tomorrow. Like, why? What are you holding them for? Like, it is still like, and it's great. Like, you know, you see like the outpouring and how important it is to win a 20s and win a minor, and it's hugely important to the players, especially. Like, I've played them, I've lost the final in both. And it's devastating, but equally, like, it's someone else's job to think big picture and say, right, how can we get now instead of it being 8, you've got 10 fellas. You've got 10 Cork 20-year-olds that'll have played in an All-Ireland final at the end of this weekend instead of 8 or instead of 6 or instead of 7. You know, so like that's to me it makes perfect sense when someone is able to step back and say, this is the plan. You know, and I think long term they will benefit a lot from it, and I think it's the kind of thinking that Limerick have applied in the last 10-15 years, like not mirrored, we'll say, because they haven't been in that situation, but you know, I think it's the kind of thinking that they've applied to their underage development over the last while as well, and has stood them in pretty good stead for going into this weekend.
So it definitely seems to have done. I was up in Kilmallock yesterday. Your name was mentioned when I was up there, saying that I was coming down to Cork. What is your lasting memory from your time in Limerick, and what is the Limerick-Cork rivalry actually like from your point of view?
It's interesting. Like, I actually never thought there was a Limerick-Cork rivalry, because we're so far down south here that you don't get a taste of it at all. And then when I went to Kilmallock, I remember my first year there. Like, obviously I've been in Limerick for a couple of years in Mary I, and again didn't really ever get a Limerick-Cork thing. Like, kind of, you know, we had Limerick lads, we had Cork lads. Wasn't a big deal. Very fond of the Limerick lads. It was fine. And then when I was in Kilmallock, I kind of remember my first year there was the year Limerick beat Cork in the semi-final, and I remember the week or two leading up to it, kind of a few of the lads, you know, would have said 1 or 2 things and kind of like, oh, blah blah blah, like kind of just messing like about, like you'll be this, that, and the other thing. And I was kind of like, I'll be honest, like I wasn't overly bothered by the whole thing. I was kind of like, yeah, look, I'd love Cork to win, but equally I was like, I like Gillan, I like Lynch, I like Richie. Yeah. I was kind of like, lads, look, like, you know, I'm here to just coach the team here. Do you know, like, that's going to be Kieran and Donald's problem. Like, you know, I'll go watch the game and I'll support Cork on the day, like, but I'm not losing any energy over this during the week. But they're border lads, you know, like and like the Cork Limerick thing to them was a thing, and I had never realised it was a thing. Do you know what I mean? And then last year with the club at home here, I had a selector from Newtown Chandram. He's living in the parish, and he won an All-Ireland midfield with Newtown Chandram 2003. Ian Kelleher is his name. He was involved with Cork before as a player, and then later as a masseuse. And Ian hates Limerick. Like, yeah, I'm in a WhatsApp group with him still, and he fucking hates Limerick. Like, and he's like, anyone but Limerick, and I'm kind of like, oh, fuck, like, I don't care. Like, I'm kind of like, if we had to lose anyone, I'd like it to be Limerick, you know. Like, and he hates him. Like, he's just like, oh, like, and so it's kind of amazing to me. Like, so, like, from my perspective, there was no Cork Limerick thing until I actually realised, Jesus, right, up around Charleville, Newtown, Chandram, Kilmallock, there is actually a thing here. Like, you know, there's a bite there. But like, generally speaking, like, I don't know, is it that kind of, I don't know, like, I don't want to say the wrong thing here, like I said, because I'm not from that border area, you know.
It doesn't seem that.
It doesn't seem that. No, it doesn't, and I don't think it is. Like, I think I feel like Limerick Tip is worse, actually.
Yeah.
Funny enough, I feel like Limerick Tip
and Limerick Clare probably
and Limerick Clare is worse, and Tip Clare is worse, and Cork Tip is probably worse as
Cork
well.
Tip definitely is worse.
And Cork Tip is worse.
Yeah.
So like I kind of feel like it's kind of always been generally speaking, been a kind of a bit of a healthy rivalry with no major animosity. But then like.
What can change that then? Is this weekend?
What can
If
change
a massive brawl?
A big royal or no inside Croke Park. That's ice hockey style. I know. Look, like I had never gotten any major vibes off it, we'll say. But that being said, like I said, it's funny how the week of a match does tend to bring up whatever is there. It did bring it up, And after they won, like a few of the lads said it to me on the Tuesday night. A few of the young fellas, like we actually played. I remember we played a challenge match in Laois against Clock Balacalla, who just won the Laois Championship there this weekend, actually. We played them on the Saturday, and the Limerick lads were all out, so our lads could go up on the Saturday night and go out. The Clare Galway game was on, that night, and Cork Limerick were playing on the Sunday. So we were all up, and I actually ended up meeting some of the lads inside in Ryan's, and passing, whatever. I was with my friends from college and just chatted to them, grand, whatever. And they were like, oh, we're going to, yeah, grand, best of luck. We'll see you on Tuesday, trying to see it Tuesday. And met them Tuesday, and they were all like, oh, and again, like, I was kind of like, lads, like, you won, like, I don't really give a shit, like, best of luck, I hope you win the final, great, like, I was disappointed for an hour or two, and, like, grand, like, but like, it was there, right, like, so it's just a funny one, but I don't think it's one that there's any real badness in, to be quite honest.
I've heard some people optimistically predict that this weekend promises to be an all-time classic. The more the week's gone on, the more like that's not actually overly optimistic. It could happen. So where are you sitting here? And we should be open with this is Thursday evening. I'm sure come Sunday morning you'll be thinking Cork will win. But what are you thinking Thursday evening?
I want to give Cork more of a chance of winning it than my head is giving just yet. Do you know what I mean? And look, famous last words. I'll be laughed at for, it's like our own people didn't even give us a chance. That's not what I'm going with. I do think they have a chance. They have a chance. Of course they have a chance. They're still Cork. They still have 25, 30 good hurlers. There's too many good hurlers in Cork for them to ever be, totally without a chance. I preface everything I say with that. But I just think, this Limerick team have gone and won 2 All-Irelands. They have kind of got one of the best players in the country in almost every position. Like, they've literally got, you could nominate every one of their 15 players for an All-Star this year, and I don't think you'd be out of order, and that's a simple fact, like, you could nominate probably 4 of their players for Hurler of the Year. Who would you nominate for Hurler of the Year at the moment from any other county? That's maybe Tony Kelly, like, do you know what I mean? So like what I'm saying is like all the kind of the standout things this year so far have been things they've done. We've had some really good games between Kilkenny and Wexford, Cork and Kilkenny, Galway, Dublin in a kind of a different way. But like that's all been kind of teams that are playing at each other's level, and I kind of just feel like at the moment Limerick are a small bit ahead of everyone. Don't get me wrong, I've said this, if anyone I've talked to, I've said this, I think in the next 5 years, Cork will win an All-Ireland. Again, famous last words, they might win none and I could be laughed at as well. But I do think in the next 5 years, Cork will win an All-Ireland. And I said this at the start of the year. I think Cork are getting there, and I think they're getting there probably a little bit quicker than even I would have thought at the start of the year. I just wonder, are they there yet? And I'd probably be inclined to say no, and like my heart doesn't want me to say that. Obviously, like my head is what's saying that, and I just think like there are definitely places Cork can cause Limerick trouble, but equally, I feel like there's 15 places Limerick can cause anyone trouble, not just Cork, and I just feel like they're just that slightly better oiled machine at the moment. Like the day against Waterford really was, like I don't think they ever looked in trouble, like at any stage. Like it was one of their most complete performances actually in a while, and it didn't really get any massive kind of thing, I suppose, because we had a classic with Cork and Kilkenny, but before going into that weekend, everyone was talking what, like, I knew a couple of people who said like, oh, the final is on Saturday. These are Cork people, by the way, and like, then they just kind of said, like, it was the kind of, it was the kind of manner that they beat Waterford in. It wasn't even emphatic like, you know, going to hammer them. It was just kind of like at their ease almost.
Yeah,
and that and like that was the worst thing about it, really, because you're kind of like, Jesus, they're just moving through the gears here, you know. But obviously, look, like, you give Cork a chance, like, and I think Cork are well set up to give Limerick trouble with pace, which does trouble Limerick and has trouble Limerick and Cork. You look historically, like in the recent history of the fixture, it's been probably Limerick's toughest fixture, I would say, in the last 5 years. Cork have been their toughest kind of. Did Kylie call them a bogey side lately? I think he might have. I think he used that term. And it's a fair enough term because they do trouble them, you know. Like I actually said this on the show there. I remember one morning I was on the show inside in Cardavan in Limerick, inside the Napier, where they stayed for the Napier Clubhouse. I used to live there, and I was on Off the Ball AM at God knows what hour. My hair was sticking off. And I think I said that like Cork matched up. This is 2-3 years ago. I said I think Cork matched up well to trouble Limerick, and I think they will trouble them with pace. I think, especially Kingston if he starts or if he comes on, Jack O'Connor. Obviously, Shane Barrett if he starts or if he comes on, Alan Connolly, you know, these guys, particularly with that kind of direct pace that they have, will cause Limerick trouble. And who knows, like, you know, it's an All-Ireland final at the end of the day, but I still think ultimately, like, Limerick are going to probably have too much for a finish.